Before we dive into some Senior Bowl prospects, go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave that thumbs up if you enjoy the video and leave a comment. It helps the video out a ton and it's always much appreciated, much obliged. But I go into about 10 prospects here, and if you want to hear me go into a few more of the Senior Bowl participants, go check out the podcast. I'm going to leave a link in the description below. That's right, I said podcast, the Never Too Early Draft podcast. It's currently on Anchor. Hopefully it will get distributed to other platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, and Apple and stuff like that. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah. Till next time. Enjoy the video. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Barushmo, just in case you did not know so. And today we're going to take a look at the Senior Bowl, man. Senior Bowl's next week, and I want to take a look at a few guys that really has a chance to improve their stock. I mean, honestly, all these guys kind of have a chance to improve their stock, but I think these 10 in particular have a real chance to maybe elevate to maybe that day 2, maybe even fringe first round status. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get this started. We're going to start with Jamie Newman. I think is the most obvious one since we didn't see him play in 2020. He decided to opt out, never played a snap for Georgia. But we could take a look at his 2019 tape at Wake Forest, and he did quite well, man. He went for almost 2,900 yards, passing 26 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. He also carried the ball for 712 yards with 6 touchdowns, but he was in a very RPO-heavy scheme, and that was the thing, man. I was very excited to see him play at Georgia, just basically play in a more pro-style offense, because we know this guy is a very accurate downfield passer. He was one of the most accurate downfield passers in 2019. He had the 6th most catchable throws on throws of 20 yards or more. So I was very excited to see how he would do on the intermediate passes, and which is kind of a Georgia theme, but we won't get that, and I think he really stands a chance to maybe make him a second round, maybe make a case that he should be ahead of Trask, and maybe even Mac Jones, who's kind of a fringe first rounder right now, but good size, 6'4", 230, currently got a third round grade on him, so we'll see how that all pans out. And then of course, Kyle Trask, I just mentioned him. He does have a good chance. I mean, honestly, the Senior Bowl is designed for guys like him to really show off their passing tools, and he really needs this to rehab his stock after just looking abysmal against Oklahoma. He threw 3 picks, but I mean, it shouldn't take away for the type of year he had against the SEC, throwing 43 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. Keep in mind, 3 against Oklahoma in that first half. It was pretty ugly. But I mean, like I said, the Senior Bowl is designed for guys like Trask. I mean, that's what Herbert, he went into the Senior Bowl, just flashed those tools. Granted, Herbert definitely, I think, had a more talented arm. I mean, Trask kind of falls into this whole prototypical size, prototypical arm strength category, which the NFL, not that they're moving away from it, but they're looking for those guys that can make all the throws and then some. And Trask, I think, honestly, with a great showing during the practices, and I mean, he's probably only going to be on the field for a few drives, honestly, could maybe make a gambit at the first round, right? More likely, I think he's a second round guy when it's all said and done, maybe even third, but we'll go ahead. We'll see. And then this receiving group here in Mobile is very good. Honestly, the wide receiver position is probably the most deep in the draft, but in particular, these group of receivers are very talented. So I'm gonna highlight one I'm really excited to see, because I've been high on him all year. And then I might go over a couple others, but Frank Darby, man, I think this guy definitely could be special. He didn't have a great 2020. Let's keep that in mind. He only played, I think, a handful of games because he suffered a rib injury during the season. But the guy showed, especially on special teams, a lot of forced missed tackle potential and ability in the return game. He only had 6 receptions for 46 yards in 2020. But what I like to see was with just those 6 receptions, he had 3 forced missed tackles, opposed to 2019 where he only had 5 over 31 on 31 receptions. He has great speed, and the size, 6'1", 200 pounds, nothing to scoff at. But this guy, he's probably going to be a yards after the catch type of guy. I mean, he does have experience inside and outside. So honestly, the slot might be the way to go with him, but having that outside experience is real nice. It's a real shame we didn't get to really see him play this season, or at least play much of this season. He received very high praise from Brandon Ayuk. So there is that. I mean, he praised his hands. I mean, the guy, he hasn't really had a drop problem throughout his career. And he's been stuck behind back-to-back first rounders being N'Keal Harry and Brandon Ayuk. Or Ayuk. I'm going to get that name right, man. Just wait someday. But this is a very, very good receiving class. And I think Darby currently, he's sitting as a 5th rounder to me. So an early day 3, but early to mid day 3. He's right now receiver 23, but I think he could definitely really help his stock out. And then we got Deo Odeyingbo. Hopefully I said that right. Admittedly, I haven't watched a lot of, I've seen a bit of film on this guy, but I saw him on Walter Football. He received first round love from Walter Football, which was interesting. I haven't really seen that anywhere else. But I mean, I was going through some of his background and some of the analytics with him. He did put on 10 pounds before the 2020 season, so he's sitting at 776 pounds. So I think this is a guy that maybe he could put on more weight and try to maybe translate as a 3-tech, kind of like Marlon Davidson did. But I mean, Marlon Davidson, he was 290 going into the Senior Bowl, which was impressive. But this is a guy he's got a good quick first step, but he's more of an edge setter, not really a edge bender, so. But he plays violent, so I kind of think he's kind of maybe built for a 3-tech or maybe a 3-4 end in the NFL. But he did have a solid last 2 seasons with 60 pressures and 8 sacks, over the 564 pass rush snaps he did see. But a guy to keep your eye out on. I know I will throughout this week, because I mean, this edge class has a lot of interesting prospects. And then we're going to go over Spencer Brown, the Northern Iowa tackle. This guy, he made Bruce Feldman's Freaks list for his physical and athletic upside. And the season was postponed for him, and he declined a few Power 5 offers to play in the 2020 season. Instead, he just decided to prepare for the draft. He does have some freakish length, and he plays with some real nastiness. I mean, just looking at his size, 6'9", 325, very good athleticism. The thing is, being 6'9", you kind of worry with the height kind of getting out leveraged by maybe quicker edge defenders, edge rushers, and that kind of seemed to be the Achilles heel for him in 2019. He played majority of his snaps on the right side, but definitely a guy to look out for in a very interesting tackle class. Very good tackle class. I mean, there's a lot of offensive line prospects that I'm very intrigued by. And then we're going to go over Jordan Smith out of UAB, because this man, he has dominated Conference USA since stepping foot. 102 pressures and 13 sacks over 550 pass rushing snaps. Ridiculous. That's an over 20% win rate. He was a former Florida player. Then he was suspended for a credit card fraud scheme. That's kind of the gist I got from that. That was about as much as I dug into it. Because, I mean, a young kid, this was years ago, so I'm not going to hold that too much against him. But he's got great size, 6'6", 250. To combine that with length, his effort, his athleticism just shines on tape. I think it's just special. He is still a bit raw. A lot of people want to claim him to be a hybrid pass rusher, maybe a stand-up guy, which you could stand him up. But I worry about putting him in coverage. He only had 31 coverage snaps over the last 2 seasons. So a guy with close to no experience in coverage, you could still stand him up, kind of play him like how the Cowboys did with Aldon Smith this past season. But I think definitely early he's gonna be a situational guy as he develops, but man, you could really get a star here, man. That's the thing about this edge rushing class, man. There's a lot of guys with just like elite traits and upside and tools. It's just there's not, for the most part, there isn't complete production. You know, it's on film. Like, I mean, we talk about this with Jason Owe, Kwity Paye. He only really shined it through what, 6 games this season, and he's considered the top, largely considered the top edge rusher in this class. So still, this class a bit of a concern, but there's a lot of guys with those tools. And then Robert Rochelle out of Central Arkansas, another guy that made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. Just, he's got elite cornerback size, athleticism, and traits, and it's a real shame that he's not going to be able to test out the combine. I think that's where he would have probably made the most money, where he would have elevated his draft stock the most. But he does get a chance at the Senior Bowl to show that he can cover some of these Power 5 guys. Now, it is a bit of a limited sample size. He only played 352 coverage snaps through the last 2 seasons, and really 2020 he was where he became a full-time starter. You know, he was a part-time starter in 2019. He has 2 interceptions and 6 pass breakups over that time, so not great. What it appears, not great ball skills, but we'll find out more at the Senior Bowl. So I definitely look forward to him. He's currently the 15th cornerback on my board just because of those traits, man. Like I said, they're crazy, good size. If you could come in weighing above 200, man, a lot of teams are going to like it. And then a guy I'm really, really high on is Cameron Bynum out of Cal, dude. This guy, he has over 2,700 career snaps, man. This guy's been a 4-year starter. He's only allowed over that time 10 touchdowns to 6 interceptions and 20 pass breakups. So the guy is solid, man. Majority of the time he's been asked to play kind of a press role there. He's probably better as a press zone or maybe just even off coverage, considering he is limited as an athlete. He's not showing, he doesn't have like Caleb Farley or even Robert Rochelle traits, but admittedly, he played much better competition than Rochelle. But again, he wins with instincts, but you would kind of worry that these maybe some quicker, more agile receivers would be probably very tough matchups for him. I think he could definitely get into that day 2 conversation with a really good out-in, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him, man. He was a guy before the season that I was pretty high on, man. And speaking of guys that I really love, man, Garrett Wallow out of TCU is a guy that I feel like he's after my own heart, man, because I love these former safeties, converted linebackers. I don't know why. I just love it. I love those guys. He has a real big chance to improve his stock. I think because he really started 2020 pretty poorly, pretty piss poorly, man. It was a rough start, but he finished the final 5 games pretty strong for TCU. He really showed some blitz and upside. Granted, it was over a limited amount of pass rush snaps. They didn't ask him to do that much of all. But the thing I would be concerned, I guess a bit concerned, he doesn't really make any splash plays in coverage. Like, he's solid in coverage, but he really makes no, like I said, splash plays. No turnovers. Not a lot of pass breakups to this guy's name. If I were to comp him right now, I'd probably say value brand Chaz Surratt. Because keep in mind, Chaz Surratt, he did convert from quarterback to linebacker. So Wallow going from safety to linebacker is a lot easier. But I think he definitely has a lot of the same traits as Surratt. You could always also say, was that Foye Lokun, the Atlanta linebacker who really started blossoming this year. He's I think he came from Yale. He was a safety, which Atlanta then converted him to linebacker. I think I could see definitely a bit of similarities with him and Wallow. But currently Wallow, 21st linebacker on my board. So again, he could go a long way. And then Quinnen Morris, a guy I kind of touched up on at the beginning of the year because he's just dominated bad competition there for the MAC. But he has a big chance to improve his stock because there's really just 4 tight ends here in this draft class, I think, that are day 1 or day 2 worthy. And then there's a big drop off after Charlie Collar and Jeremy Ruckert decide to come back, there's a considerable drop off after that. So I think he has a big chance to improve his stock, because really after Kyle Pitts, Pat Fryermuth, Brevin Jordan, and Hunter Long, I don't think there's really a tight end. And hopefully I said tight end this whole time. I feel like I may have been talking linebacker. I don't know. I guess we'll see in post. But there isn't really a tight end that jumps off the board that I honestly might not even be willing to spend a fourth round pick on. I mean, Trey McBride even returned. So who's the Virginia Tech tight end who really started popping off boards or jumping up boards? He decided to return. So there is that. But this guy, 6'4", he's a bit shorter than you'd like. You kind of like him around 6'5", 6'6" even. But 248 pounds, he could get up to 250. That would be nice. He was kind of a so-so blocker there in the MAC, which, I mean, honestly, he could put more pounds on. He could be solid, but he was decent enough pass blocker. And keep in mind, this was against a bad level of competition. And again, a bit short, but he has produced as a receiver, especially. He really plays tough at the catch point. He's really good on those contested balls. He has 13 touchdowns throughout his career. Drops kind of emerged as a big issue for him, though. But this guy coming into the Senior Bowl, I think, has a really good chance to improve his stock. Definitely one I'm looking out for. And that's it for the video. Remember, go check out the full podcast if you want to hear more about the Senior Bowl participants. Remember, that's on Anchor. It's going to be in the description below, and it's the pinned comment. But do that YouTube thing, and as always, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.